Good morning. Yeah, you had a good party last night, didn't you? It was so low energy. Good morning. We're going to do it again. Good morning. And now, because we have people from all over the world, I want to hear you say good morning in whatever your native language is. Good morgen, günaydın, sabah khair, whatever it is, okay? Are you ready? Your own language, whatever it is, just shout it out. Good morning. That's, no idea what was said there, but lots of energy. That's what we want. So I'm Don Taylor. I'm your moderator this morning. My job is to start the thing going and to deal with the conversation this morning. It's a conversation. We have three great people. We've got great input coming in. People aren't going to talk on stage for about 5 minutes each. I think we have a total of 2 slides and 1 video. So mostly it's conversation and dialogue with the room, okay? That's what we're looking for. We're looking for engagement, and above all, we're looking to tackle this problem, or this question of strategic L&D. I'll talk about that in just a second. First, I want to introduce our panel. We've got Derek Bruce of TESCO, Oya Turum of Nordex, which is easy to say, and Rafael Fernández of MOEVE. Fantastic, okay. I'm going to ask them now to introduce themselves very quickly and explain something about themselves very, very quickly. Derek.
So, good morning. Hope you could all hear. Just double checking.
Yes.
Cool. Okay, so Derek Bruce, I work at Tesco's. We sell beans in the UK and other stuff as well. And I work in a people team managing leadership and culture.
Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Oya, and I'm working as head of global training in the PMEPC department of Nordex, which is one of the leading wind turbine manufacturers worldwide. And I think PMEPC is maybe something people might not understand. So project management, engineering, procurement, and construction. So that's basically a business unit within our organization. And here I'm leading a wonderful team of motivated learning and development specialists.
Fabulous. So we've got Derek's Tesco, that's retail. You're in manufacturing. You're creating wind turbines, and your particular part of it, you're getting them out there. Rafael.
Buenos días. Good morning.
Buenos días.
So I am Rafael Fernández. I'm coming from MOEVE. It's a Spanish energy company focusing on energy, sustainable energy and mobility.
MOEVE wasn't always doing sustainable energy, was it?
No,
but we're going to hear more about that in a minute. Okay, thank you for that. This is our panel. Let's give them a welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, I want to talk very quickly about strategy, and then I'm going to ask you a question, obviously, because you've come in, you've had a nice breakfast, you're probably looking just having a sit down, maybe close your eyes, catch up on sleep. No chance, right? We're going to ask you a question, we're going to engage. So let me talk about strategy very quickly. So strategy, tactics, these are military words, and we're used to thinking about this in a military way. So you may be familiar with Omar Bradley, who was the American general in charge of the troops at D-Day in Normandy in 1944. He famously is supposed to have said, amateurs talk about strategy. Professionals talk about logistics. I'm quite interested in this as an idea, because strategy can be up there in the clouds, but what matters is what happens down on the ground. And if this doesn't link up with this, and if this doesn't link up with this, you can have all the strategy you want, but nothing's going to happen. The two have to be connected. But without action, strategy is nothing. Napoleon put it more succinctly. Of course, he was French, very concerned with gastronomy. An army marches on its stomach. So you can have no success without taking care of the details. So we're going to look at strategy today, but we're going to look at it through the lens of how do you make things happen on the ground? Now, the question to you, and I'd like you to turn to somebody next to you. If you have nobody sitting next to you, move over, find somebody, talk to them. The question is, what are you doing right now, tactically or strategically? What are you doing to support strategic L&D? What are you doing to support strategic L&D? And you can chat with your neighbor for a couple of minutes, but I'd like you to explain it to me in 3 words. What are you doing for strategic L&D in 3 words right now? Talk to your neighbors. 2 minutes, go. I like that.
Was not enough.
2, 3.
Interesting.
The record is 11, so I think we did pretty good stopping on 4 very quickly. Okay, lots of chat, lots of great ideas. Obviously, lots of you are doing great strategic work. Who wants to share something? In 3 words. Yeah. You have to be very brave to be the first person to put their hands up. Who? Yes, we have somebody being brave. Let's run a microphone over there, blessing. Thank you. Hang on, microphone's coming. There it is. Okay, go ahead.
3 words.
3 words.
Finding stuff out.
Fine, I like this. No, seriously, now, who are you finding out stuff from?
Working with professionals.
Yeah?
Finding out how they can be most comfortably supported in their development and their learning.
Okay.
Dialogue, lots of dialogue, talking, many more coffees.
Now, I'm a big believer in the power of coffee and having a conversation and not turning up saying, I think you need this, but no,
Exactly.
having a dialogue. We're going to come back to that. I know the team have got something to say about that, but thank you very much. That's a really good start. Okay, anything else? Got one over here? Tarkan, microphone Gilliard.
Thank you, Donald. It's always nice to be a part of your activities. And, I can say that, yes, finding, but convincing them to stay.
Okay,
Also.
so you can find stuff out, but we have to convince. Who do we have to convince?
Yes.
Who do we have to convince?
Who?
Who?
Oh, that's a very, very hard question.
Yeah, okay, we're going to find out.
We have to wait for the answer.
We'll find out from these guys here, but it's
Yes.
okay, we have to find out, we have to convince, okay. And in the middle here, just to make life difficult and interesting.
Excuse me?
There we are. Go on.
I would say more with less.
Say again?
More with less.
More with less. Okay. I think everybody in the room is feeling that, but what does it mean for you to do more with less?
Supporting learning in a more personalized way, but with less time, less resources, less budgets available.
Okay, does this make sense? Is this something you recognize? Yeah?
The budget thing, yeah.
Yeah, budget thing, absolutely. Yeah, okay. Thank you very much for that. I'd like this. Any other thoughts on this before we move on? Okay. Don't shake your hands. Okay, good. That's really helpful, thank you. I think this idea of finding stuff out, convincing people, and just being really tight on the budgetary side of things, and we have no choice. We have no choice. We have to do more with less. Unless you can really convince people, and very often if you can convince people that there is a strong strategic imperative, you can get the funds. But that's a matter of having the right thing, convincing people, and then the money will come. All right, let me be quiet now. I'm going to hand over. Each of our panelists is going to speak for 5 minutes about what they're doing, just to set the context of how they are linking strategy and tactics. And then we're going to go into some questions that I've got prepared. But if at any point you want to share something, or you've got a thought, and you've got a question, please throw your hand up. This is an interactive session. And at some point, I may simply throw a question out to the audience anyway. All right, but with that, Derek, what are you doing to link strategy and tactics at Tesco?
Okay, so I'm going to stand because I can't talk and sit because my hands go everywhere. So I work at Tesco's and we sell food across the UK. We have probably worldwide about 500,000 employees, which is quite a lot of people. And out of that, I'm responsible for 2,000 leaders globally. And that's looking at stores, so basically the people who sell the stuff to the public. It's also distribution centres, how we get the food to places, and head office, which is where we make all the decisions. And what we're doing is trying to make sure we are giving our leaders the future capabilities they're going to need now and for the future in terms of how Tesco's and how retail for food is going to work. You mentioned around the conversations and the coffees, you mentioned around a budget, you mentioned around the whole listening. And what we're doing now is ultimately making the decisions around, if we look forward 5 and 10 years, what are leaders going to need to be doing differently? If I look back 5 and 10 years, leaders knew what they knew everything. They were the knowledge ones, they're the ones who had all the power, they knew the decisions. Our leaders now don't know, for example, when it comes to how we sell petrol in our retail forecourts, if that's still going to be a thing in 10 years' time. Is it going to be an EV forecourt? Is it going to be a petrol forecourt? We have all these decisions to make. And we want our leaders to be comfortable being uncomfortable. When I'm comfortable being able to actually deal with digitalization as well, but also comfortable working with a diverse workforce. Our people range from 16 to 70. in our stores, in our offices, in our distribution centres. So the work we're doing is very much around saying, what you need for people to be doing is going to be this, but having the conversations with the who, in our case, is the stakeholders, is our senior managers, but also our employees and the managers who are going to be impacted by the learning we're actually designing. Because historically, we as L&D, and we're all lovely, great, wonderful people, we love doing courses and stuff, we're really awesome. And we created all the stuff we wanted to create for people to do. We're really thinking about, do they want this? Does it fit? And also, is it going to make any difference whatsoever? So the work we're doing now is very much more around listening to everybody, including the managers involved, making sure whatever we propose is such an obvious burning platform that we get the budget. That there's no like, oh my God, we're not going to give it to you. It's like, no, this is so obvious, we're going to throw money at you, which has happened. And I was like, oh my God, it's awesome, pretty cool. But it happened. So this is kind of what we're doing now. And again, when we go through the conversations, when we go through the questions, I'll expand more. But in terms of the whole concept of strategic L&D, it's us moving away from designing stuff because someone says, do this, as opposed to us saying, we see this is what we're going to need to be doing. We see the so what is this, and we see if we don't do this, we're not going to reach our business goals or objectives, and also we're not going to be doing the best for our customers as well. So in essence, that's what we're doing at TESCO. I'll share more as we go through the questions, but that's just a bit of a taster in terms of how we do strategic HR, how we also look at the whole concept of developing our leaders and our people, but most importantly, having those people as part of the conversation, having a coffee with those people, listening, and getting the money to make sure, do you know what? This is so awesome, it's so sensible, and it's so needed, we can do this as well.
Hang on, this is just too good. I can't let you sit down. Everybody wants to know, you want to know the magic in the conversation. You have a conversation with somebody, you're finding things out that are going to be really useful to the business. I know we're going to have questions later, but what's the magic question you're asking people to find out this stuff?
Well, for us, there's three kind of questions, and the role we're playing is almost like a business consultant, not an L&D professional now. The first question is, what's going to happen when this is done?
What will happen when it's done?
So if we talk about, if this is a piece of work, what is the desired outcome you want to happen? What's the change you want to see in terms of the activity and behaviour? We're also asking about, how does this link to the objectives and goals we have as an organisation? If it doesn't, why are we doing it? If this isn't one of the 4 or 5 or 6 business goals you have, why even bother doing and focusing on this piece of work? But ultimately, the last question is around, how is it going to land and engage the people who are going to be impacted as well? Because they need to buy into it. It's almost like having a Ferrari or a Lamborghini, which is an awesome car to drive, and you get in, and you have no license, you don't have the keys, and you have this great product which you can't use. So for us, it's also making sure the people impacted are also going to be ones who, when we roll out what we're doing, buy into it, do it, change behaviour, and engage as well.
I love that question. What will be different afterwards? That's not a question we ask often enough. Thank you so much, Derek. Thank you. When I'm often asked to do talks, and I have a standard set of questions I ask people, and one of the questions is, what do you want people to think, do afterwards? Think, do, and feel afterwards. And incredibly, very often, people say, well, we've never thought about that before. I say, well, why do you pay somebody to go and talk if you don't think about what impact it's going to have? So I hope that they then use that in their formulations for future events. Oh yeah? What are you doing at Nordex? Let me turn this out of the way. There we go.
So let me walk you through my experience in L&D towards a more strategic approach. I work at Nordex, and we are a wind turbine manufacturer. We are installing turbines, and we are commissioning them, and afterwards we have long service agreements, which means we need lots of technical skills. I started my journey at Nordex 12 years ago in a region, and my first challenge was to establish a technical academy in the region. After that, I switched to a more global department, the PMEPC training department, and started setting up here a department. And this was a business need. So we saw the necessity of upskilling employees in the company, and that was how I was approached and started here my second big project to set up a training infrastructure, basically. And when talking about wind turbines, Jan, maybe we can show one picture, because currently the value chain of PMEPC is about the logistics of the wind turbine components, the installation, the commissioning, and then the handover to the service department. So basically, we have lots of technical skilled employees on our sites, which need to be upskilled. Another thing, what we are doing now is also taking care of the manufacturing learning program, which we are currently designing. And it is a global setup, so we have manufacturing factories in India, in Spain. We have projects all over the world, so which means we have also cultural aspects to consider. And when developing learning programs, it's such a complex environment. I think one of the most important things is the buy-in of your stakeholders, to have a strategic mindset also from your company's perspective. Many of you will most probably have experienced, or I experienced myself, that I was passionate about a topic, and I thought, okay, that is a solution, we need this at our company, but at the end, the buy-in was not there. So maybe focusing a little bit more on achievable small goals, which are also supported by your management or by your learning organizations, would bring you maybe to a benefit. And secondly, I think we have achieved here a very important milestone, because what we do differently at our training organization is that how we build our programs. Because we have here, since a couple of years, the focus more on our users. Basically, who are our learners? We try to understand this in a better way. And for this, I think it is very important that we are in a conversation with our learners. Maybe we can jump over to the next slide, because here I brought one of my experiences. So this picture is taken a couple of years ago on top of a wind turbine. And the first time I climbed the turbine was, I think, back in 2012 or 13. It was one of our older generations. It was not that comfortable as this one. But it was, for me, a mindset changer. Because there I understood how the people work on our construction sites, how they service the turbines. And that's what we try to do with the team. We go to the people, and we don't ask only questions like, what do you think can be improved? What do you need to learn? What do you need to work more efficiently? We also try to understand them as a person. We try to understand their behaviors, their habits. How do you spend your free time? What will you do on the weekend? And this really gives us insights how people like to consume content and how they want to learn. And this is maybe a mindset change what we benefit from as an organization as well. So, you want me to continue or not?
I am listening, and I'm very happy for you to continue, but of course I'm writing down lots of questions that I want answers to.
So to wrap up maybe, currently we are developing learning programs, and these learning programs have very different users at the end who should benefit from it. So they will be upskilled at the end, or they should be. And in an organization, in corporate, if you want to establish a new program or you want to be successful, you need to link it to a business goal at the end. So you need a measurable program and listen to your stakeholders and to your learners.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I think that's great. Can I ask you some questions?
Of course.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, come on. Don't go anywhere. Let's swap places. Let's swap places. You stand there in the middle of the stage. This is you. I've always wanted to do this, by the way. I've always wanted to climb to one of these turbines. How high off the ground are you here?
I think here it's around 90 meters.
90 meters.
But that's not the highest one. So
Oh, okay. How big are the tallest ones?
help me, Bilal. 160.
160. Wow. Can you imagine just, I mean, I'm just thinking about it, my stomach is churning, thinking about being 100. And it's not, you know, you're looking down and there's nothing holding you up, right? When you go up there,
yeah.
Yes, we have to go out and we have to find stuff out. I love those 3 words, find stuff out. This is finding stuff out. And you can't guess at what's happening up there. You have to go and find it out.
Exactly.
What happens when you talk to people when you're at the top of a wind turbine?
I mean, when you're on top of the wind turbine, actually it shows you how people work. So
Yeah.
on one side you see the work conditions, and it's not easy because you need personal protective equipment, which is heavy. You have small spaces. You are at a height, maybe people are a little bit scared. Of course, they should not be, but either you are on top of a wind turbine in Netherlands, or you are in a manufacturing facility in India.
Yep.
I think the conversation with people, trying to understand how they work, what they do, and not just sitting in front of a computer at the office where you drink your coffee, but you are there at the shop floor, you are on top of the turbine, and you talk to them and have this conversation. It gives you so much.
Yeah. We had a lot of conversation yesterday from Gerd about tacit knowledge. Now, tacit knowledge comes in many ways, and tacit knowledge is the stuff that's very difficult to write down. A lot of what you're describing is the tacit knowledge of the environment that people are in, and if we don't have that knowledge, we can't serve these people properly. And part of that is what they do in their spare time. Part of it is everything else that's going on around them when they're at work. There's a lot of talk at the moment about tasks and jobs to be done. How do you know? I mean, obviously, if you're working on a turbine, there is a description of what needs to be done. But around that, there are other things as well. And you talked about test benching your courses. Can you just describe something about what you do? What does it mean? A test bench is an engineering thing where you test a product, right? But you're talking about using that idea for your materials, yeah?
Let me go a little bit back to that. The first project I did was to set up a regional academy because it was the service department and you have lots of service technicians working at the same area.
Right.
So which means traveling for them or coming to an academy is quite comfortable. But now in PMEPC we had to change our idea here because we have construction sites basically everywhere and we have huge teams working there. So we have our supervisors, electrical, mechanical skilled people. We have partner companies working with us, installing turbines with us, and they also need to be trained.
Yep.
So what we did here was that some of the content is, of course, now digital available, but we have hands-on people. So we are not at that time where we are ready, or we think we are not ready to implement maybe virtual reality yet.
Yep.
But give them test benches where they have a safe space and they can try and fail because nothing will happen. So if you think about a medium voltage component or cable pulling, we have a test bench where they can walk through the process,
Right.
and then, which is instructor-led, by the way, and can try it and fail. And this is portable, not at an academy, stable anymore, but it's portable, so we can go to the site where the learners are and take them through the program.
And you take them through the program and you can observe how successful it is and how you need to improve the training when they're doing it, right?
Of course.
And I think that, for me, is the key bit here. We talked right at the beginning, strategy, tactics, how do we combine the two of them? We know that sustainable energy is expanding very rapidly. We know that the strategy is we have to have the skilled people. We have to have the skilled people to support our growth. The tactics is implementation. What do people need to do? How do we convince the people, get them on board to do it? And then making that work is the logistics of Omar Bradley. That is about going and seeing what works with those test benches and understanding how people actually work by going and seeing them in the field. You can't do it from the office in Hamburg.
No. But we have also regional academies,
Yeah.
and this is also a concept working in maybe different departments. But in this department particularly, we needed a different solution. And here we have different target audiences.
Right.
So we have also logistics companies, an audience of 3,000 learners globally touching our components, for example. And here you, again, need a different solution. So it's a little bit depending on for who are you developing the content,
Of course,
of
of course. That's brilliant. I love this idea of the real practical and stomach-churning reality of finding out what's going on, linking through to the strategy. Thank you so much, Oya. Okay. Rafael is from MOEVE, and I can't say that properly, but it's my best attempt to do it. I'm going to leave it to you to roll the video.
Thank you very much. Video, please.
CEPSA becomes MOEVE, a new brand for a company with over 90 years of history. MOEVE drives a future powered by more sustainable energies based on green molecules, developing Andalusia's green hydrogen valley, building Southern Europe's largest 2G biofuels complex, creating one of the largest ultra-fast electric charging networks across Spain and Portugal, being global leaders in sustainable ingredients for detergents. With Positive Motion, we're opening the doors to a hopeful future where we'll offer energy that is more affordable, abundant, and sustainable for businesses and consumers. MOEVE is movement, optimism, energy, valor, evolution. MOEVE is color, dynamism, and hope. Designed by and for people. Together with our team. This future has a future.
So that's happened 1 month ago. So before that, we were CEPSA. CEPSA stands for Spanish Petroleum Company. So that's the last milestone of our transformation process. And it's very significant because we are telling the people, our employees and the society, there's no way back. So we are moving to a different reality. So allow me to take you to 2022, when our two shareholders, it's a sovereign fund from Emirates, okay? It's called Mubadala, and the other one is Carlyle, it's a private equity, it's an American one. They decided to set up an ambition for the company. And the ambition was to become an energy transition leader. But at that moment, we were an oil and gas company, a medium player, 10,000 employees in terms of workforce. We are covering the whole value chain of oil and gas, from exploration and production, refining, petrochemical, and all the commercial aspect of the fossil fuel, okay? So that was, and very profitable as any other oil and gas company, okay? Dealing with, okay, playing with maybe energy transition because oil, the regulation and whatever, okay? But the point is new ambition. And that ambition is affecting us, impacting the whole value chain of the company. Every business is impacted. To give you a dimension of and a scale of this change, we are abandoning the exploration and production business, 70%, and we have reduced our EBITDA by a half. So that's the commitment of the company, because it's not consistent with the narrative. But we want to be a leader in energy transition. You cannot be a leader on fossil fuel. So we're getting rid of this kind of business, impacting people, impacting the business, you see. But we are investing up to 8 billion euros in this decade. We already invested 1.2 in the construction of a site, a production center of biofuels in the south of Spain, starting that 2G, new generations biofuel, okay? We changed 90% of our management committee, okay? So changed completely. Our CEO is Dutch. No, I think I have Dutch people here, okay? You know what it means? Yeah, okay. So, yeah, but Dutch, we have French people, we have German people, we have Italian people, we have French people, and Spanish, obviously. So that totally different mindset in the company as well. And the rules of the game are changing. So oil and gas mindset and the way of working is totally different from the one that makes the energy transition successful. It's talking about speed, agility, collaboration, making alliances. You cannot be a successful leader in transition, in energy transition, if you're working alone. You need others. And it makes a totally different mindset. Imagine people working in this company for more than 30 years, okay? Successfully, okay? Very performant, good performance. And now you're changing, okay? So that's for the business strategy. And what's about the people strategy here? So in 2022, when we changed the management committee, we were asked to define a new people strategy because there is no business strategy without people strategy. Because the talent, it's core of the transformation process. And which is interesting, I have more than 30 years experience in HR, in different companies and different realities, and it's the first time I see that talent is really at the core of the transformation agenda. It's part of the strategy. So not only at the conversation at the management committee, but at the board level, which is quite different, because you have board members asking you about, okay, how's the cultural transformation going? Okay, that's new. It's not only about figures and businesses and projects, it's about people. Are the people buying? How's your talent gap? Okay, and you need to show real proofs that you are hiring the right people at the right place with the right skills, okay, in order to perform. So we define this people strategy, and to make it simple, 5 key elements, okay? First, we start with values, because change starts with behaviors. So we define 5 new values, okay, starting and very consistent with our mission and our strategy, and very specific terms, okay, behaviors, because we want the people to understand exactly how to perform, how to behave. Second, it's about capabilities. First thing comes to your mind. You need different capabilities. So we hired capabilities from the market, the ones we cannot develop internally, more than 300 people in the last 2 years, going to the new businesses, hydrogen, biofuels, methanol, these kinds of things. We're mobilizing our internal talent because it's key for us to use our talent. We need to reskill, to upskill the talent, but it's key. It's part of transformation as well. So, you know, oil and gas and career development was made in the silo, okay? Now we are changing. We're trying to move people across the company, we're struggling. It's not easy, okay? But it's part of the transformation. The third thing, it's about upskilling, reskilling. So we needed to understand exactly the skills we needed to this cutting-edge technology, yet to be proven even. So because we hired these 300 professionals from the market, we were able to define the skill map for the green energy transition, okay? And with skill map validated by the business, now we are able to build up all the solutions and the training itineraries, paths, and programs in order to bridge this gap. Third element, leadership. Leadership is key. It's about role model. So what we did, we took our values and our behaviors, and we developed a leadership model based on what is expected from the company, from a leader, in terms of behaviors and practices. Very clear. We ran a 360 assessment to 1,400 leaders of the company to say, that's a picture of you, okay, and your behavior, what your people are saying, and your peers, against the reference, okay, in terms of behaviors, the new behaviors we want you to perform, okay? And after that, we design and we perform all the development programs in order to fill the gap, because, okay, our leaders, they're not at the top, okay, at that moment. So we are working on these kind of things. So values, capabilities, leadership, we are using reinforcing mechanism and integrating this mechanism like performance or compensation or career development with the rest of elements in HR. And using, for instance, in performance, we revamped our process of the performance cycle. And we are introducing not only the performance, the what to perform every year, but the how that comes from the behaviors that come from the values we decided at the beginning. So everything is integrated. And the last element is about engagement. So it's very important when we are moving so fast to monitor people's engagement, monitor people's, and so we revamped, we redefined the way we listen to people, okay, in the sense now we try to, as our CEO says, to capture sentiment of employees, okay, and we monitor as well the organizational health of the company, in order to say if we are going to what we want to go, okay? So just to summarize, in my context, everything is moving very fast at the same moment and everywhere, okay? So the change is not linear, okay? So the change is changing on the move. So we need to be very adaptable and flexible, okay? And the third thing, it's as a personal reflection, you can have the vision, you have the money, you can have the technology, you can even get the right people at the right moment with the right cost, okay? But which is very important, and I think the big complexity of the challenge is you need the mind and the soul of the people engaged and aligned. And that's very important for the magic to succeed. Thank you very much.
Wow. Now, stay up. I don't know about you, but I filled a page of notes there when I was writing. There was a lot going on there. It was the last point that really got me, though, this idea that complexity, the key part of it, all comes down to the people.
Yeah.
That without the people being engaged, without people being convinced, then nothing happens.
Nothing.
And then just before that, you said the last of your 5 points was monitor, measure, see what's happening. How do you know if people are engaged? What's the so you've laid out really clear strategy. What tactically are you doing to make sure that it's working?
So we're doing different things. Obviously, because our management committee is fully involved in this process,
yeah.
Okay, and the board as well.
Yeah.
We need to report. So we need to measure.
And this is unusual. Just to be clear, this is very unusual.
It's very unusual.
Reporting to the board.
To report. And we use, obviously, this kind of, metrics, okay? Yeah. There are some system and metrics that talk about organizational health index, engagement, the pulses, employee life cycle, these kind of things. So we put into place different metrics to show how people is evolving, okay? And basically, so we run these metrics at the beginning of when we released the strategy to have a baseline, okay? And we are measuring constantly. So now we need to measure next year. We've done a lot of things in terms of helping people and helping managers navigate uncertainty, helping them to navigate the whole thing, and we expect some key elements to evolve. We've seen a clear evolution, for instance, in understanding of the strategy.
Right.
At the beginning, it was people were completely surprised. Imagine the shock.
Yeah.
No? And at the beginning, it was quite complex, and we saw the people, didn't buy it at the beginning. It was quite complex. So we did, we react, we put into place communication things, very direct. I say the involvement on the management committee is key here. And they are keen to collaborate and to go down and speak to employees. So even the whole company, now we've changed the brand. So every member of the management committee has go to the production centers to talk to the people in different shifts. Right. So it's about talking to people directly, face to face sometimes. That's one thing to see and we ask the managers, to be much more involved. We're working in these kinds of, empathy things, have conversations, listen to people.
I just want to ask the room, I mean, it's super exciting, but I think it's also really unusual for an organization to be reporting at managerial and at board level about the cultural aspects of the organization. Is there anybody else in an organization where you're reporting about the culture of the organization at board level? Look at that, excellent. Wow. We have some leading companies here, brilliant. But it's a small number, and that's understandable. I think everybody else in the room would like to know, how do you get that degree of interest at the board on people? Do you have to reimagine the entire purpose of the organization in order for that to happen, or can you do it some other way?
So what the board wants to know, it's if we are doing the right thing, okay? As investment companies, they have the kind of playbook, no, of investment. So the good, how to successfully invest in a company and transform it, okay, in 5 years' time, okay?
Right.
And they what is interesting, I convince this cannot be performed without the people, okay, and without certain elements of people. For them, talent is key. To have the right talent in the right positions to perform is an indicator of success. It's an indicator that you are doing the right things on your investment to perform and to deliver. And that's the kind of thing you need to find the kind. And so it's a discussion about talent, but applied. Okay, and you said about the success of the strategy is execution.
Yeah.
So
okay, I'm going to try to find, for our next conference that I do, an investment person who can come along and say that performance rests on people. That's fantastic.
I'll just add one thing, because we have a similar reporting line with my team is a very new team alongside an L&D team. And again, we have to report about culture to the board. Right. And I think one of the things which helps us is the organizational structure and the role you have of the CHRO, who in our organization is very strong. Right. So in terms of talking about the importance of people, and we have a lot of people, it's kind of like the conversations are with the CEO in terms of what we're doing, what the culture is, what's working, what the surveys are saying, what retention is, looking at those figures to make sure when we do things like that, it's kind of a business as usual, because it should be something where culture, people learning is something you do. It's not something you do if you need to. So I think the organizational structure also reinforces that conversation and that link between culture, people, and the organization.
That's really interesting to know. And, it's good to know that it doesn't have to be a huge transformational change. It could be, it's business as usual in a retailer, and that's why you're doing it. AXA, I know the insurance company does do this sort of reporting at board level, and I was talking recently to the CHRO of a major pharmaceutical company, global pharmaceutical company, and when you mentioned strong CHRO there, she was absolutely the person you'd want to go out and make the case that you have to change. Are there any questions that we've got for the panel yet? I've got a list of questions. I'm burning to ask them, but has anybody got something on the throat? Yes, got a hand over there. Let's get a microphone over. Blessing. Thank you.
Yeah, I wrote it down. Mr. Qundez, you said that everything is moving fast and changing all the time. Yes. And I was wondering, for actually all three of you, how do you ensure that your programs are adaptable and future-focused?
That's great, because if you're changing, things are moving fast and changing all the time, you could be fixing this thing here, but actually, that's now what you need to change. Great, okay. Who wants to go first? Rafael, you look very keen. Come on.
So, in fact, the point we're working on two levels, okay? So the short-term level, okay, we have something related to capabilities we need on the moment, okay? We are working on leadership in order to help them, for instance, to have difficult conversations and these kinds of things. So it's very tactical. But in fact, you want is to change your leadership style, okay? So the focus, the aspiration is we need a different style. And our reference, and talks about the future, is our leadership model. In terms of technical capabilities, the same. We have our skill map of green skills necessary, and that's the future. Mm-hmm. And we are trying to work in now to deal and to reach the future we are in. And it's not easy because we are struggling to find even providers, okay, of this kind of technology, because it's extremely cutting edge, so it's difficult. So we are talking, so two levels. So the thing is, as I said, you need to have a North Star, okay, but you need to be very, very flexible every day, because things are changing a lot, and depending on the conversation with the management as well.
I just want to reflect on this for a second, and Derek, I'll come to you, and then Oya for this question. But this business of having a North Star and being able to work towards that, but at the same time be flexible, that's something which in my research I found to be a common factor amongst great CLOs. If you're a good chief learning officer, you work in an atmosphere of ambiguity. You are happy to make decisions without 100% certainty. And I think generally that's a failing of learning and development. We tend to want to know everything about something before we take action. With a world of change, you can't do that. You've got to be comfortable to say, I know enough to take the risk and make that choice. Derek?
It's a great question. And I think in any art retailer which sells stuff every single day, when it comes to our product and keeping up to date, I think there's probably 3 key principles. One of them is perfect doesn't exist. So in a context of if we do the program we're doing now around inclusive leadership, we know in a year's time there may be different policies, different focus we're having. So we kind of go, let's kind of make the minimum viable product, make sure it works, what's the goal, what's the need, let's hit it, and we'll tweak it accordingly. So that's the first principle. The second principle is always to get the feedback from the people who are doing it, but also the feedback of the people who are impacted by the people doing it, if that makes sense. That sounded really weird in my head, but I think...
Sorry, say that again, slowly.
Get the feedback of the people who have been educated,
Yeah.
but who have been impacted. So if I'm doing leadership development, what are the teams seeing the change of that person?
So it's the leaders themselves and the people under the leaders, right?
Yeah, sorry, I've not had enough coffee, so
No,
apologies.
I got it on the third attempt. I got
It's
that.
good. So I think that's the second thing in terms of getting the feedback. And I think the third thing is just to kind of not be precious about whatever we do. And I mentioned earlier that we, historically and as a community, want things to be stuff which we create. As it is now, our role has evolved into communication people, into facilitators, into connectors, into managing stakeholders. So in the context of a content, to us, that's kind of a smallest thing. It's actually the conversations, the impact, the desire of the organizational goals. And that's kind of what's the priority in terms of if this is working, yeah, if it needs tweaking, fine, but what are we doing as a company? What's the impact? And keep an eye on that piece as well.
So don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good, and keep your eye on the North Star.
Yeah.
You mentioned communication, or is that something that you would mention when it comes to this business of...
Of course, communication is always key, and we have also programs sponsored by chief officer level or the higher management. And when we did a stakeholder meeting and asked them for their expectations, one of them was low maintenance of the learning program.
Low maintenance.
Yeah, and
I think
Xenia
that's
is
such
also
a
here with me.
great thing to take away.
And exactly. So currently we are, or in the last 4 years, we have developed 5 different learning journeys for different roles. Currently we are developing actively 3 complex learning programs, and all of them are consisting of 90–95% of in-house content. So we are not curating content. And of course, we have maintenance cycles. So 2025 will be 1 year where we have to maintain lots of our content. We don't want them to be outdated. But what we do is we also follow technology. So we also take advantage of technology. And this is also something we prepare for next year. So we budget it, we plan it, and present the management also what is the situation and what needs to be done, and ask for the approval of it, because it's not happening from itself. You need to do something, and in some cases we also take support of external partners to maintain the content, but mainly it's managed within the department. And also to you, Derek, I mean, sometimes with 20% you can achieve 80%, so it does not need to be perfect all the time. But we have crucial things, safety-relevant topics, where we cannot accept a small mistake. So that's why it's very important.
So just to be clear there, you're talking about going out, researching stuff and being aware of what's going to change, and then you can go back and get approval for it, but you have to be proactive about understanding what the change will be.
Of course, in summer we just had a budget round and we planned the next year.
Yeah.
And there we already know which are the learnings which will need a revision.
Right.
And that's what you can plan in your budget and make or showcase your
But that business of being proactive is so important, not sitting back and waiting to be told what to do. That's great. Okay, anything else coming from the floor? Oh gosh, lots of hands, brilliant. I just want to say, All the hands are going up over here. No pressure on this side of the... We've got a little hand waving here. Okay, another. We had a little hand... No, we're going to go over here. Let's have another hand. Okay, down the front here. And then let's have another microphone. Oh, gosh, everyone wants to speak. It's great. Blessing. Let's go here. Then let's go to the front here. Go ahead.
Oh. Hi, I'm just curious, how do you tactically measure the impact of your learning programs?
Yeah, it's a key question. If we're talking about monitoring, how do you know if it works? If it's safety, you know it works because nothing happened.
Yeah.
And that's a tough one, right? But anyway, any measurement stories, ideas? Derek?
Yeah, I mean, we when it comes to leadership development and basically leaders not being asses, that's kind of our key measure in a sense. So we use an annual survey, which we do quarterly as well. And there's very specific questions around the performance and behaviors of our leaders. But going back to your point also, we relaunched our Winning Together behaviors, which are 4 behaviors which managers need to basically do every single day. And if they do that, life is awesome. If they don't, it's not. So we also kind of measure against that in terms of, are our leaders doing the right thing? We do support
Hang on, how do you know if they're doing the right thing?
I was going to say, we support with data.
Okay.
So in terms of questions, in terms of, there's individual team surveys as well, which shows responses to, are you or not doing that as well? So that gives us metrics as well. And we also then use data related to, in terms of succession. So are people being developed based on good leadership conversations? Are people leaving the organization because of bad leavers as well? How long are people staying at the organization? What's retention based on certain demographics? And using those trends to see, are our leaders doing the right things? But there's also narrative. We have listening sessions where once a quarter again, we just have sessions where leaders talk about the survey and have to give feedback to us as HR.
So you've got the numbers and you've got the qualitative stuff as well. That's really, really good. And by the way, none of that is a simple return on investment study.
No.
You're not talking about numbers of dollars earned. What you're talking about is, as you put it, the impact. How do you show the value of what you've done? Exactly, brilliant. Going beyond the safety stuff is crucial. What else? How else would you track it?
We also measure near misses, by the way,
Right.
to be, again, proactive. What we do when we have learning journeys for roles, of course, you can measure the easiest way are the completions. And what can be done also from technical perspective to see if your operations are successful, you can measure ticketing systems. So you have raised a tooling training. What's happening with the tickets? Are there still lots of tickets coming in?
And just to be clear, when you say ticket, we mean a request to a support help desk.
Help desk ticket, exactly. So there's a couple of measurings what you can do. It is depending, I think, on the context. And you've just gave a good example for leadership. In terms of technical, you maybe need to be... You need to see what is measured inside of the company, what kind of data you have, and how can you link it with your learning objectives.
Right, that's the key thing, isn't it? You don't want to add some extra things on top. What's already measured and work with that.
Exactly.
Rafael?
So for leadership, as I told, we are using 360, okay, because it's based in our leadership model based on behaviors that are relevant for us. So we run that every 18 months. So in sense, okay, we can say if people are closing or not the gap. In terms of skill, because we have the skill map, okay, we ask people to self-evaluate, okay, self-appraisal about how do you see yourself on this the scale of 5 levels in a specific skill, and we ask the manager as well. So the over time, okay, after training happens, okay, we see if these things evolve positively, okay, and people are, okay, getting more and more, I would say, the mastery, the knowledge in terms of skill. And that's the point. So we are trying to use it, no return of investment at all. It's part of credibility of the model of the management.
Has anybody here done a 360 of themselves as a manager ever? Yeah. I just want to share a story with you about my experience with doing this. I was a new manager in 1998. I'd taken over a company. I was put in as the manager of 30 people who had been led by a very charismatic leader who was in charge of everything. I was reporting to the head office in Oxford. The head office in Oxford was reporting to the head office in Seattle. So I had much less autonomy than the guy I was replacing. I hadn't managed a team of that size of people before. After 1 year, we did a 360 review. I waited until I arrived somewhere to open up this 360 review, and I swear my initial reaction was, oh, everybody has misunderstood how they are supposed to rate me. Okay, that's because I'm a man, right? And the rating was from 1, he's awful, to 5, he is superlative, right? And my score was about a 1.5. It was that bad. Of all the people in the training organization we were going through, I was the lowest score. And it was awful. And at that point, you have to choose. What are you going to do? Here are the numbers. This is what the people say. This is the truth. And of course, I had to react to it. I'm pleased to say that I had 1 more year in that company. At the end of that year, I said to the team that I'd been managing, I'm afraid I'm going to be leaving. I'm going to leave the company now, set up my own company and go independent. But I want to say it's been great working with you all. In that year, I had consciously worked on all those awful things that had been shown to me. And that's not a numerical measurement, but 2 of the people in the room started crying when I said I was leaving. I don't think it was tears of happiness, just to be clear. I think they were sad that I was leaving, right? So, even your worst managers can improve. I just want to share that. But it's great to have the commitment at an organizational level. Yeah. Great to have that commitment. Sorry, I interrupted the flow with my own story there. We were going to go down the front. This gentleman had his hand up. We had a microphone here? Yeah. No? Okay, we're done. Okay, we had another one back there. And then we were going to go, there was a hand over here, which was, no, I want to go somebody else here, Tarkan. Behind, yes? We've got one there. So let's go there. First here, and then here. Yeah. Do we had a hand here? We've got lots of hands. We had a hand here. Okay. So I wanted to get, if there's a hand, Blessing, just go to the hand. Okay, there we go. Okay, we'll go here, then here. Yeah, go.
Okay, thank you. Actually, I have 2 questions, so I'm still, yeah.
Well, but no, you're making up the balance.
The first question is, I was inspired by what Payal Arora, if I pronounce it right, said yesterday. Ask the uncomfortable, and yes. I was wondering, what are you uncomfortable for at the moment? So when
great question.
Think about your strategy. What do you think? Well, that makes me uncomfortable and awake sometimes at night.
I love that question. What are we uncomfortable about in terms of what we're doing right now? You've got a look on your face. Oya, do you want to share something?
I mean, right now I'm not uncomfortable anymore, but I was, and the experience was that I have been assigned with a new project, which was a really large-scale learning program again. And I think for me, the uncomfortable situation was that how do I mean, it's so big and complex again, so how can I get the buy-in of my sponsor and all of the stakeholders and the management of this business unit? And I think to get again back to your comfort zone, you need to step out of your comfort zone again and need to challenge them and ask them the right questions so you can prepare your program, your outline, the best as possible. And so how I approach at a company like Nordex learning programs is more with a project management approach. That's helping me a lot because that's the solution I found for myself in this company. We are managing projects, and a learning program is also a project. So that's why we speak the language of our business, and we initialize the project, and we have an analysis phase where we analyze our sponsors, our main stakeholders, who are supporters, what are challenges, what are risks, etc., etc. And then we go and ask them questions and challenge them again. So this is how actually you stabilize a little bit more your project and get the commitment. And then you are back in your comfort zone again.
Back to being comfortable. I like the idea of using the language of the business. It's a project company. You're going to work with it as a project. Anything making you uncomfortable?
Yeah, I would say it's about the mindset and the ways people behave,
right?
Okay, the ways of working. So the rules of the new business is speaking about working transversally, okay, working in groups,
yes.
And that's not naturally happen. And what it worries me is because I'm having strange conversations with the management committee, because when the business runs smoothly, it's fantastic. When things get harder and things not happening, fetch the talent guy, okay, we want a change management course, more.
That's the classic reaction.
That's the classic reaction.
Something goes wrong, train some people.
Train.
Yeah.
So you are not doing your job, whatever. So you're having very complex conversation with them because, okay, change management course is another coat of paint. So it's not doing anything, no impact. And you have to have conversation in terms, okay, do you want to speak about role modeling? Because it's maybe that. You're not speaking about a training program. We're speaking about a totally different thing that affects the... So it's this kind of conversations that are complex. You need to measure exactly how to push, to pull. It's not exactly easy. And it's not because it's not happening in terms of behaviors. Again, okay?
And I like the emphasis you always put on the behaviors coming from the values and that being the core of what you're looking for. What's making you uncomfortable, Derek?
Yeah, apart from these 5 bright lights, I think six. Yeah, I can't even see now. I think there's a couple of things. One of the things is a community I manage and I'm looking at developing of our traditional middle managers. It's a 2000 where they get crap from below and they get crap from above. And we're looking at changing how they lead inherently. And one of the key things is how they talk to people, how they connect to people. And it's, for our head office people, it's not a big jump. For our store people, it's a bigger jump. For distribution center blue collar, it's a huge jump. Yeah. So what's making me uncomfortable is how we retain a consistency of what we're offering to develop the people, but also adapt enough to make sure the environment they're working with, it fits. Because somebody who manages a team of people in marketing is going to have a very different set of relationships and human-centric connections of their staff to somebody who's packing shelves. So that's one of the things to make them comfortable. And the second thing is also making sure when we deploy, and with Timothy, we've done pilots, we've had feedback, people have been involved in the design. When we deploy it, it doesn't come across as a HR or people experience. It comes across as a business thing. It comes across as we're doing it because it's a thing we need to do at TESCO's to do the right thing. So we're also spending lots of time around branding, communications, marketing. It's very strange. But that's also, we need to make sure, I'm conscious that needs to really hit the mark in terms of when this hits those people, it feels like it fits something which is going to help me do my job better when I'm stacking shelves or moving stuff or talking about projects around marketing as well.
So having that impact across a really wide range of people, as you said right at the beginning, that's obviously going to make you feel uncomfortable. We had a hand here. Yeah, go ahead. Then can we get the mic down to pink jacket at the front, please? Well, it's Becky, but Becky in the pink jacket. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Sanne, and I had a question because I heard you talk about strategic L&D, and also it needs change management sometimes. And in a company I worked before, I was working at the L&D department, and the higher management wanted to do a big change. So we created a lot of courses to implement the change management, and there was a big momentum. Everyone was aboard. Spoiler alert. A few months later, everyone fell back into their old habits, and there wasn't any change. So for us, it was like a lot of work done for nothing, but more importantly, the changes that were very exciting didn't pull through. So I wanted to ask if you had advice and hopefully practical tips to really stimulate long-term change management.
Can I just say, thank you for being honest about this. It's never easy to share those things. Thank you for asking a really important question, because so often this happens, initiative from the top. So you think you've got buy-in. Great, we'll produce this stuff. Implementation, momentum dies, nothing changes. Miserable position to be in. Thank you for asking the question. Has anybody else been in that position in some way? Yeah, I mean, it's pretty common, isn't it, right? Yeah, okay. So you're asking a question, 2 hands going up there. You're asking a question which lots of people in the audience, it reflects their feelings and what's happened. So thank you very much. Right. Just very simple. How do you make change management happen, Rafael, effectively?
So change management it's a complex element, so you have different aspects, okay? Role modeling for me is key, okay? Role modeling. So the management, it's key. It's a reference in terms of behavior. It's about integrity, it's about the consistency. So you need the managers embarked, absolutely key, okay? Have a clear reference of behaviors. The behaviors that's suitable in the company in terms of different layers and different activities. For me, it's key.
When you say reference, what does that mean?
The reference is values.
Right.
The values, the leadership model, very clear statements, very clear behaviors, what is expected from a role, what is expected from your job in terms of behaviors. And a consequence management. If you're not complying with the behaviors, what's going to happen? Otherwise, you're not consistent.
I was at Decathlon in September in Lille in France, and I went in to do a talk, and the very first thing that the woman who was hosting me did when I went in was said, "Donald, come with me." And she went over to a corner of the room and said, "Look, these are our 8 values. This is what we live by. This is what we report on in every meeting. And every meeting, we start the conversation. See, the first one is be human. Every meeting begins with a conversation about how you are." I thought, wow. And I'd never seen a business where they... I've seen plenty of businesses where they put the value on the wall. But I've never seen a business where they took you straight to them and said, this is how we live, this is what we do, and that's how we run our meetings. I was super impressed. So I love the idea that you can make it integrated. But that takes top-down buy-in, and if you've got somebody at the top starting it, they have to keep supporting it, don't they? Yeah.
Before focusing on the change management part, it's if the management requests a training or a change, maybe we need to understand, is this really a business necessity, or is there maybe some other reason behind? And we should not be scared of asking questions, and the right questions, and challenge them again. Because I have experienced it myself, that I was pulled into a project, and a couple of months later, we had a change in the management, and then the project was basically killed.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's happening, but I would always recommend to just, I know it's sometimes getting out of the comfort zone, but just don't take the order as it is. Take it, think about it, prepare yourself, go and ask questions. And this is the only way how you can understand, is this really a business necessity? So is it hurting somewhere in the business so you can provide a solution to it? Maybe you are only part of the solution. You are just one piece of the big puzzle. And by that, if we have a good justification, maybe we should also not be scared and sometimes saying no.
I like that. We're professionals, and if we're going to be exposed, we need to know that this is justified, what they're being asked. Great, thank you. Derek?
Not much to add. I was going to say exactly what you said, so that's kind of taken away my thunder. But in the context, I think the other thing is, determine what is a burning platform, what it is, and actually, is the burning platform a burning platform, or just someone's ego, or someone's desire, or someone's whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the questioning, the checking in, and I worked in the Netherlands as well and had that happen a couple of times. And it is a pain in the arse when you're on the receiving end of that. Just do this. It's like, it doesn't make sense. Why are we doing this? I think the saying no is the biggest thing we can all take away in this room, because we're not brain surgeons. If we say no, nobody is going to die. And maybe on a, maybe on a wind turbine, there might do.
And how to say no.
Yeah. And obviously, I'm English and we're very polite at doing that. But there's ways to kind of check in and to make sure it is actually a real need for the business.
I think before we go to the next question, we should practice saying no. Everyone in the room is going to need to do this at some point. Somebody's going to come in, they're going to knock on the door, they're going to come in, and they're going to want a course. They're going to order a course from you, you know it's not needed. You know it's not needed. I'm going to be that person. I'm going to knock on the door, I'm going to come in, and I'm going to ask for a course. I want you to say no. You ready? I'd like a course, please.
No.
There's not enough passion there. I'd like a course, please. No. It's a bit more like it. Now, when I open the door... Okay, there we are. That's it. Okay, let's get back in the driving seat. All right. Thank you. All right, so next question.
Hello, my name is Pink Jacket at the front. No, it's Becky. So you've all talked a lot about trying to create behavior change across large, diverse groups of people. So I'd like to know how you think about doing that in terms of responding to those different needs of people, because of course, behavior change and the barriers that people have to overcome is going to look different for different demographics of people, different characteristics of people.
Sure.
So I'd love to know how you think about that.
So it might be age, it might be location, it might be work, it might be neurodiversity. There could be a whole bunch of reasons why we want something to change, we want people to change their behaviors, but we have to be sensitive to how we make that happen with different people. Brilliant. Yes. We're going to start with Derek, because you were at the end last time, and all your thunder had been stolen by the time we got to you.
Yeah, and that's such a great question. I think, and I'm going back to what we're working on now, which is a huge behavioural shift for a lot of people. One of the processes we're actually doing as at now and as at last week is involving the people who are going to be changed in the design of the change. So we ran a couple of pilot test sessions around how managers connect humanly to their staff. And we invited people who were senior, we invited people who were different races, people who were male, people female, people who were different age groups to the sessions to say, okay, this is going to hit people like you when we roll it out. We have a big demographic at Tesco's. So if I think of all the places I've worked, this is probably the biggest bloody challenge. Excuse my French, biggest challenge. But I think the only way you can really do behavior change to people who are diverse is get them to tell you what works and what doesn't work. I don't know if I'm a female lead in a project team of men, how that culturally fits. I don't know if I'm an 18-year-old, this is my first job, how that works managing a store, for example. So getting those people involved in the design, getting those people involved giving feedback, albeit still being aware of what it is our objective of the session is, what it is our goals are, and actually just adding that insight into it. So it gives almost like the right flavours to a pot you're making as well.
All right, so we want the feedback, but tactically, boiling down to the detail, how do you get the feedback?
Talking to people. Okay. Yeah, so basically, we ran a literally 3-hour session last week.
It's already a 3-hour session?
It's a 3-hour session on how leaders can really communicate with other people, because anybody who's worked in retail, it's really, really fast, and you're very, very target-driven. So it's very much around, we kind of need to slow down to speed up to understand our people. So we ran a session, but we've actually then have sessions where we have one-to-one conversations, which is, okay, you've been involved, what is it like for you? Did it work? Thinking about people who you, some to you, is that going to work? Is that not going to work? What could we do differently? What could we do better? And having those conversations. It's a lot of time, and that's also one of the things I think, the things which we do now in our role, the conversations we have with people going up a 105-meter high turbine, you know, the things which they do wind.
Fun.
Those kind of, not in a bad way, those kind of things, understanding what it is they go through is something I think we've missed as a community. And having that realistic feedback is, I think, one of my biggest things now.
That time commitment is so important, isn't it? Thanks for that. Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's not a one-size-fits-all solution, and we know that, we experienced that. And again, conversation is key here to understand your audience, because this is the only way how you can understand them better. You can see similarities, you can see where they have differences. And just looking back 1-2 years ago, we've conducted lots of workshops with different PM organizations. We were in Brazil, talked to them, did workshops, we did interviews, we were in conversation with them and asking basically about everything questions. Currently, for me, this is the only way and how you can understand what's working best. And of course, you should also not be scared of failing.
Rafael, do you agree?
Yeah, I think it's very important to control the narrative, okay, in terms of behaviors as well. So if you want something to become relevant, you need to speak about that. So every day you say values, safety.
Yeah.
So you speak about that.
Yeah.
And so we are doing these kind of things. So communicating around that every moment, and we are empowering the managers. So managers is key. So it's extremely complicated. It's not easy. People are normally reluctant. They think it's an HR job. Okay, it's complicated. We are reinforcing mechanisms like performance and behaviors again, these kinds of helping them, training them to manage these kind of things. But we cannot be as talent people and everywhere. So it's the job of the managers
Yeah.
to do these kind of things.
It is the job of the managers, and in good organizations, managers will know what their people are like, and they'll be able to feed back. Timpson's is a cobbler's. They repair shoes in the UK. One of the key things that Timpson asks all the managers to do in their stores, they will phone a manager up, and they'll say, right, you've got a guy working for you, Bob. Tell me what Bob's home life is like, what's his family like, what are his hobbies like? Yeah. And if you can't answer that question, you get a phone call the next month asking about Sally or somebody else. Now, none of these questions is personal stuff that an employee wouldn't want to put forward. But what they're asking you is, of course we care about the money you make each month, but we also want to know, do you know your people?
Yeah.
And they really take this seriously. If the manager can't answer these questions, then they're put on a program to get them to be better at communicating with their people. And actually, if you go into Timpson's, it's extraordinary. They actually have things on the desk saying, my name is Bob, I support Bolton Wanderers, my favourite things to talk about is pies and chips. I'm not joking, that's my local guy, Bob, at Timpson's. And if the manager doesn't know that, there's something wrong. That's really, really good ideas there about the practical business of, yes, we have to find stuff out, but how do we do it? We go and we listen to people, we drill it down, and managers have to be super, super responsible here. I've got time probably for one or two more.
Can I just add one
yes,
more, very similar to the 105-metre high turbine thing. In Tesco's, sorry, my head has gone, brilliant coffee. In Tesco's, we also have to do store days. I don't know if anybody else works in retail.
What's a store day?
A store day, I was about to explain. So a store day is where we actually have to go and spend 2 days in a store every 6 months. So we either go and check out, we collect trolleys, we pack shelves, we do the customer-facing stuff, and we have Timpson's in Tesco, so we say hello to those guys as well. But what it allows us to do is also understand from our roles in head office what it's like not being in head office. Yeah. We also have to do distribution centre days, so where they're moving stuff from A to B. And so again, it helps us understand for blue-collar workers what it's like to physically be there going in 6 hours a day, moving boxes, what the kind of conversations like, what the experience is like. And I think if there's one thing you guys take away, go to the sharp end of what your organisation does, just to see, feel, and hear and smell what it's like as well.
I love that. Go to the sharp end. That's a really good way of putting it. We have a question down here.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yep.
Perhaps I'm one of the few people here in the audience that is not part of the Learning and Development unit. I represent IE University, which is a university. I work very close with some L&D professionals. But I mean, thinking about the title of the session, no? A strategic L&D that makes a difference. So we're talking about today, but how can we, let's say, define the L&D function in 5 years' time? How would be this function evolving so that we can make sure that we continue making a difference, but in 5 years' time? What is your take on this one?
I think that's a brilliant question. I'm going to ask the audience, ask these guys here. I'd also like everybody in the room to think about this. I'm just going to ask for a one-word answer from everybody in the room. How can we make sure that we are making a difference in 5 years' time, strategically in L&D? So just think about that, and let's just have any shout-outs from that in a minute. How can we make sure, I mean, you're on that pathway, hopefully you're going to know, Rafael.
So the point about how you see my function and in my context, see, we need to be more data-driven. So technology, data is key for the future of talent and HR, because we are still working on assumptions sometimes, okay? And data creates credibility. And credibility is key to get the trust.
I love that. Data, credibility, trust. I love that as a sort of logical sequence.
So for me, data is basic. And we are talking about people analytics. AI, sometimes it's a good aspiration, okay? But for me, it's as a challenge.
And is that where the drive to understand the skills in the organization comes from, the 360 reporting and so on?
Exactly.
All that's data.
Exactly.
Right.
Connecting things.
Oh, yeah. 5 years' time, how do we make sure that we are delivering strategic value?
I think since last time we were talking a lot Yeah, we were talking about how the skills will change and evaluate and what kind of skills we will need in the future, and they are very close. So when just looking back the last year, how I changed how I work with using also AI tools to increase the efficiency, I think the digital transformation is at the workplace is happening quite quick. So. And in L&D, we should definitely take advantage of it. So from the perspective of a technical L&D, I think we need to first be aware of all of these trends currently happening and should implement them to our daily business and see, okay, how can we profit from it? Since I'm not responsible currently for upskilling white collars, but more focusing on blue collars, I think a little bit what we are doing is really the conversation part with our learners, and also see how technology or the digital transformation is happening in their lives and affecting how they learn, how they consume content, so we can also adapt. Because no one wants to take long courses anymore. No one wants to click through e-learnings. So if you ask them what they do in their private lives, most of our blue-collar employees use TikTok. Everyone has an Instagram account. Everyone is watching YouTube videos. So that gives you already lots of information of where the future is going. And we should catch this and not miss.
We have to be ahead of it, not reacting to it. I love that. I'm going to summarize in a second, but Derek, how do we, 5 years' time, how do we stay ahead?
Again, going last. So I think that there's probably a couple of things. I think one of the things is, I'm going to kind of challenge the data thing. I think we need to be careful with data because HR has crap data systems and crap in equals crap out. So yes, you have to use data when it makes sense and when it works to help drive predictive what we can do as an organization. So I think that's really key. For me, the second thing in terms of L&D is move away from the development word and move around to something which is around performance or engagement or enablement in terms of what we do. Because learning happens outside the office now. You mentioned TikTok, YouTube, whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
And we don't need to be creating lots of content. If somebody needs to know something, for the next 5 years, they will find it. They'll get it through some predictive AI agent telling them you need to do this. So our role is much more around making sure it's relevant, making sure it's actually something which is going to make sense, and also making sure it supports our business goals as well. But I think the third thing is also, I would love to see 5 years' times, organizations are much more organizations which are learning organizations, whereas organic in terms of what people need to do. And our roles are around being a connection to people and being a connection to a strategy. And that's kind of it. It's not around creating content or courses, it's making sure that what we need to do, we're getting the right people at the right time with the right skills through much less creating of courses and much more doing it yourself kind of methods as well.
I think that's a great question, thank you. And that's a great set of answers as well that really gives us the idea that, yes, we have to use data with caution, because data leads to credibility and that leads to trust. We have to absolutely be horizon scanning ahead of what's happening, not reacting to it, and we want to be the people who are supporting people in their performance rather than people who are focused on creating content. And frankly, there's going to, the cost of producing content is falling away dramatically with AI. And there's an awful lot of very poor quality content out there. Our role no longer is around, I don't think, creating content. It's much more around making sure with that link to performance. We have 2 minutes left. I'm going to ask our panelists to be really practical and tactical now. We were talking about strategy, the link through to tactics. How do we make sure that we have that vision for what needs to be done and we make it happen? Right, I'm going to ask our panelists now to give you some advice. What should you be doing on Monday morning? You get back to the office. Now, of course, you're going to get back. Your inbox is going to be full.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mine is.
But we're going to leave that for a moment, all right? And you're going to give yourself just a little bit of time to take action after the conference. So we're going to start with you, Derek, you'll be pleased to know, and end with Rafael.
Always the hard questions.
Hang on. So the question is, Monday morning, how do we ensure we're going out with a strategic drive?
I have two words, and it's basically so what. And I say that in a sense of, if what you're doing, you've done, so what? In terms of a difference on strategic level. If it's something which is nice and warm and fluffy, and one person enjoys it, is that great? So what? If it's something which links into your strategic goals, your values, a customer centricity, what's the so what? So think about what's the so what of what you're doing, and is it strategic or is it not? And if it's not, why are you doing that?
Fantastic, thank you. So what? Oh yeah, what can we do Monday morning?
I think if we are in a position where we have been assigned again with a project and we are feeling a bit insecure, we should definitely write down a couple of questions to challenge our sponsors, management, board level, whoever you are reporting to. And if you are already someone who has the sponsorship of your board, the management, and you are sure with your project, I think the next step is to understand maybe your learners a bit more and go into a conversation mode with your learners.
Fantastic. So that's the difference then. If you've got the buy-in from the board, then you need to talk to your learners. If you haven't got the buy-in, you need to talk to your executive team, your sponsors. Brilliant, thank you. Rafael.
So I would say, find your North Star.
Find your North Star.
It's key. And if you don't have a North Star, have meaningful conversations with the people in charge to find some kind of North Star, okay? And be flexible.
Brilliant. And we've come back, I think, to where we started from, which is find out stuff, convince people, and when you've done all that, you'll be able to get the money and do more with less. Hopefully, or do more with more, hopefully. We'll be able to secure more budget. Fantastic. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, please, will you join me in thanking our panel? Thank you.